Hey guys, this is Mubarak here of In Penny Stock. Glad to be on and have a great guest for you guys. In the last video, I talked about thomaskralow.com and his awesome educational courses. As you guys know, what I'm trying to do now is diversify, not only have you hearing from myself for the last decade, but bring on the right people who are actually changing the landscape and teaching the right stuff in the stock market. There's a lot of hype, there's a lot of manipulation, there's a lot of kind of misinformation, but Thomas Kralow is doing it right. And so we have him here on the podcast. Very glad to have you on, Thomas. How are you doing today?
Well, thank you very much for having me. Doing great. Hope you're doing well as well.
Yep, definitely. So love the background and trading setup you have. We'll get into your origin story in a little bit, but just to kind of give some value right away to the listeners, I'd love to hear what's working for you and your students right now in the markets. What has you excited, and what are you kind of teaching and wishing everyone knew because you see it so clearly, but newcomers to the market might not know it as well as you do.
Well, this is a very broad question, and I'm still, since I have so many students, thousands of students at this point, I'm always trying to understand exactly what works for whom. And, there are different situations for different people with different personalities. And there are different ways of approaching the market. You can be doing, day trading, scalp trading, you can be doing swing trading, but then there is also investing, there is active investing, there is Warren Buffett style of investing. There is a way of combining both ways of, approaching the markets depending on the market situation. However, the most important, I think that what works best, what has worked best for me is not sticking to just one strict strategy that a lot of people, they think that they know what they're doing. They have some kind of an indicator strategy with VWAP, with I don't know, moving average, MACD, stochastic, whatever, and they think that these lines are going to be predicting the market for eternity. And the truth is, when you take MACD, the one of the most popular indicators out there, I guess, when you take it, when the market is trendy and everything is nice and fluid and the waves in the price action are good, great, then you can make a lot of money with MACD. But you, as you're not new to trading, you probably know that if you're going to be trading for like an extensive period of time, you're going to be forced to trade in a flat market, in a side movish market, in a hectic market, and that is going to be devastating for your portfolio or for your deposit to use MACD. So it's going to be just useless because you're going to have a stop out after a stop out out of a stop after a stop out. So the trick is that it's not just,
and just
about,
real quick, explain a stop out. I usually don't use that terminology. So explain what a stop out is for the.
No, well, basically stop out is when you're entering into a trade, you have to have a defined trading plan. So just in basic layman terms, you have to understand and have a certain prediction of what you want to take. So let's say if you're entering into a stock at $10 per share, you want to take, I don't know, 10%. So that would be $1. So you want to set your take profit at $11. And certainly you have to also measure your risk and understand how much you're prepared to lose on any given trade. And I personally recommend keeping it. It's hard to keep this ratio, but it's always best to try your best to keep this ratio is 3-to-1. So if you want to take $1, I wouldn't risk more than 33 cents on that trade as an example. And so when you're entering, you'll have your take profit, which will automatically get triggered if the price comes to a certain price level. And then also a stop out or your stop order, which will close the trade with a certain negative balance. So at minus 33 cents in this particular example. So that's basically the idea. I mean, this is pretty much, 101 of systematic approach to trading. So when that's because when you're trading, you must keep clean statistics. You have to have a trading algorithm. Trading algorithm is something that, it might seem quite simple, but it's a list of rules that you follow, examples of the models that you're trading, examples of different market scenarios and conditions that you can also always go back to. And that is most importantly, a set of rules that you follow, because even a smart trader who somehow understands the market but doesn't really have a plan and doesn't have a set rules that you do this when that happens, then of course his trading is not going to be replicable. So any success that he might have will be short-lived.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay. So that's super helpful. And, before we get into your origin story, I have one more question I wanted to ask that this was like, I quickly polled my audience and sent out an email about, letting them know that you were going to be on the show. And probably more than 10 people asked about, what are the resources or tools like softwares that you use that you find is like best or most useful for you. So, seeing all those monitors behind you and stuff, what kind of windows or websites or softwares do you use on a day-to-day basis?
This is a very good question, because for the most part, it's not all, because trading, it's surrounded by many things. But everybody thinks that it's just your computer, some kind of a chart, and you clicking buy or sell. But in reality, there are the technical rules, the strategies and stuff. But then also around this, there is brokerage services, the quality of market data that you get, because the market data can also be different. There are different qualities of market data. Some of the market data can be actually manipulated by crappy brokers, because some of those in-house market brokers, they know where your stops are. So sometimes they can actually extend the candle. This is a very ridiculous example, but it has happened before. So that's why it's important to have a good software that works perfectly, most of the time at least. Any software might have glitches. And most importantly is the broker. So for me, always, a lot of people have criticized this broker in the last few years because of the difficulty to open an account, etc., and the increase in the margin requirements. But I would recommend Interactive Brokers. So I'm not affiliated with them, unfortunately, because they don't really do any affiliate partnerships. I would love to promote them, but since I cannot promote them, so I just give out this information for free, saying that this is my top pick for stocks, for active trading as well as investing, because
Do they still have the $25,000 minimum to start?
It depends on where you live, because if you live in the United States, then yes, but in Europe, I believe that they've removed it. If you live in Europe.
Okay, nice. Yeah, because that's the one thing I've also used Interactive Brokers, and it's super useful. But a lot of new traders, and again, like I mentioned before, probably 80% of the audience listening will probably be somebody who's in their first few months of trading. So usually they don't have that much capital put aside yet. But that does make sense, for international, because there used to be another one called Sure Trader, and unfortunately shut down a few years ago. So we've been looking for, outside of the normal E-Trade, Robinhood, we're always kind of on the lookout for good brokers.
There are many options that show up here and there, but you have to always, keep an eye out for scams and terrible market data and stuff like that. So I really cannot recommend any, smaller broker that has a way around that $25,000 rule, unfortunately. But I certainly can say that Interactive Brokers would be my top pick. And when it comes to software, because I don't know which one you're using, because the one that I have is TWS. But in my opinion, it requires to have, like a doctor's degree in quantum mechanics to operate that TWS sometimes. So it's not as
TWS like Thinkorswim, or is it something else?
TWS is the native platform of Interactive Brokers.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Yeah, so that one is quite complicated to use. So I've been using for many years Pro Real Time. So this is something you can see in my screens back there. It's like a third-party software, but they also work with IG Markets, with Saxo Bank, with Interactive Brokers, and I think it's quite intuitive. I'm just used to it. And when it comes to crypto, I use Binance for actual trading, and for actual, if I want to do some leverage trading, which I don't really do much in crypto, but nonetheless, if I would be using Binance. But all of the crypto that I have, I usually store them in a cold wallet.
Nice. Okay, so I'm glad you brought that up, because in the second half, I want to now get into crypto. But first, if you can, now let's get into a little bit of your origin story. Let the audience know about, like, what drew your interest to trading in the first place? Like, when was your first trade ever? And then, how have you transitioned from, maybe working a job to trading full time, or running thomaskralow.com to crypto trading, if you can, because that's a very interesting kind of, journey that I'd like people to learn about.
Well, the story itself, it had many different stages. And to be honest, I've never actually wanted to be a trader. I've never even thought it to be possible. The only occupations that were ever on my radar were regular occupations, like being a lawyer, doctor, whatever your parents tell you when you're a kid, or whatever you learn in school. Because I come from a like lower middle class family. And I grew up without a father, so I didn't have, a great role model as an example to show me here.
And where'd you grow up?
Well, I was born in Europe, but then
Okay.
we moved to the States, and so my younger years I spent in New York actually. So
Oh,
that's
nice.
why
Okay.
my accent is like a mix of some Eastern European and the Yankee one. So it's
Yeah.
quite a weird one. People can't tell where I'm actually from, but that's quite funny. Yeah. So, and I was looking to become a lawyer. I got my bachelor's degree in criminal justice in New York.
Nice.
And also my minor was philosophy, and I was studying for my LSAT, and I also was enrolled in Harvard for 1 semester in Boston. And it was quite a interesting journey, but I didn't really think about trading at that time. I received my bachelor's degree at the age of 19. I was quite young, but I went to community college first, and it's just a long story. But anyway, I met, thanks to my mother, actually, I met an interesting guy. He is a German, but living in Switzerland till this day. We became really good friends with him, and he has been managing assets for other people. So he's been doing a lot of active trading for himself, as well as managing assets in bigger portfolios. So from both worlds of trading as well as investing. And we somehow developed a real nice connection with him. And he just basically invited me to come to Switzerland and live with him for a while there. So, and we became really good friends. He didn't have a family, no kids, no nothing. So, and he was, at that time, he was over 50. So it was kind of a son-father relationship. So basically it was an opportunity, one out of a million, that just dropped from the skies. I don't know, it sounds strange, but it's true. It's just my life. And I took it. So, most people would probably say, what is this bullshit that, somebody, because I was creating, I had friends in New York. All of my friends were in New York. My family basically was pretty much moving there as well. And we had plans for the United States, and I was looking to get naturalized and stuff. And so I had big plans. I spent many years there and some money on education and stuff. So most people will say, I cannot give up on 5 years of my hardworking life and then just suddenly just
switch
drop
routes
everything.
or something.
Yeah. So, but I say, I was always after money, I guess. So I wasn't never, thinking, I want to be a lawyer just because I like to talk. I wanted to be a lawyer because I thought I could talk and it's good money. So when I saw this guy, he was very simple looking, but when we could, fly first class and we could, go to restaurants, spend $1,000. So I saw him splash money. So I knew that he had money. And that's why, and he said, well, you can try this. So I said, well.
And he was a trader?
Yeah. Trader, investor, asset manager as well. Yes. So, and that's how I learned, basically spent about half a year learning all of it and then starting.
And what did you kind of start with? Like, did you go to the deep end with like options and futures, or were you just learn how to go long, short? What was like your first?
I started because he told me right away, he said that he is one of the guys who is, an interesting one. He said, I can give you the information, but I'm not going to give you, $1 million to start with. So you're going to be responsible for your own money. So, and at that time, I was doing a lot of speculation in the United States. I was buying, selling cars and furniture and electronics. I did a lot of interesting videos on this topic on my YouTube channel. And so basically, I had a little bit of money saved up. And so it was less than $20,000 actually. And he said, well, if this is the money that you have 2 ways to go. You can start learning how to invest it and make, 20, 30% per year. And that's not exactly something that would make me, rich fast. So
I said, $10,000, that would be 2,000 in a year, so nothing too crazy.
I mean, investing 20K into crypto can make you interesting returns, right? So when one of my latest portfolios, I held it from 2019. And I sold it before the situation with China when they started announcing that they're banning crypto. I made 2,000%. So, I
Wow.
mean, and I did not enter with 500,000. I entered with a lot less money, but I still made a lot of money. So
Yeah.
when you're
Yeah.
thinking about long-term investments, then crypto is one thing, but stocks, obviously, if you're going to be investing into something like blue chip, if you don't really want to spend time researching all the time, keeping tabs on your portfolio and keeping the risk low, then, making like something as bad as low as S&P 500 average return, which is 15% or so. So
Yeah.
again, minus taxes, and you're going to be left with nothing,
Mhm.
almost. So obviously, I'm one of those guys who likes stuff that he never had, which is expensive cars, watches, and women, and all that good stuff, that like
I see.
everybody else. So he said,
And
"Well,
you were still in Switzerland at this point, or were you
no, I
in?
live in I live in Dubai."
Okay, no, no, I'm saying back then, like when you
Back
started.
back
Like,
then, so yes, I moved to Switzerland. I spent a lot of time with him in Switzerland. Then I moved to Latvia, and then I spent some time in Germany, and then in
oh,
Dubai.
nice.
And
Okay, so trading all over.
so
And you were trading U.S. markets, or were you trading,
now I
European
started
markets?
mostly. I started with active trading of DAX. DAX until today is one of my favorite markets. I started with mini. I tried CFDs as well, but then I moved on to mini futures really quickly, and then to full futures. The margin requirement back then was a lot smaller. So,
What's the
and
difference
this is
between
how I
mini futures versus full futures?
Well, mini futures, if simple layman terms, is going to be €5 per point, when a full future is going to be €25 per point. So it used to be when DAX was at around 10,000 points, for example, or like 8,000 points, then the margin requirement, the money you had to have in your account to actually be able to open one trade with one contract would be equal to the amount of points. So if a DAX is, let's say, 10,000, then you would need €10,000 in your account to cover the margin to actually be able to trade it. So as of
Got it.
today, the first COVID wave, when it hit, the actual margin requirement was raised to €65,000, so that
Yeah.
it
Wow.
was absolutely insane. So and now
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it was reduced now, but it still is pretty high, I think. But yeah, this is what I started with, and the beginning was quite miserable because he made quite a few mistakes while teaching me, and not technically, but also psychologically, because
Yeah.
trading isn't just technical. It's, in my opinion, it's maybe like 50% technical stuff. The market analysis is technical as well as fundamental, but then there is 50% is your personality, your approach, your routine, your
Controlling
psychology.
your emotions.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
is very difficult. Even I've
So
lost so much.
how do you teach that, or how do you kind of like, because that is deep. You're absolutely right. Technical, you can learn from a book, you can watch videos. How do you teach that more psychology based mindset, or what do you kind of recommend students
Yes,
start
there
there with?
is, since my mentor made a mistake of thinking that I'll be just able to jump into the market and make millions out of nothing very fast, because he was used to it. He was into the markets for like 20 years, and the markets were
Yeah.
different back then. So it wasn't his fault. It's just that that's what he really believed. But I struggled with it very much, because whenever I saw losing, €100, for me, it was just moving away from the Rolls Royce that I wanted. So it
Yeah.
was just all in my mind.
And they make it
So
red too, so you automatically triggers off things in your head that
yeah,
you're.
yeah. So basically, what I did was, well, in my learning program, the complete learning program, there is a big chapter on trading psychology. I've developed quite a few interesting techniques and ways to observe yourself, and how to deal with your inner self, and how to control your emotions. Just nothing special, but just out of my personal experience, what has helped me to actually stay in control of myself, and to be be able to self-criticize. So when you're just being an idiot in front of the screen, oftentimes the money pressure is so hard on people that they just become blind to their
Yep.
own fault, so they start to blame the market. And there are many techniques that I teach in my learning program, but also one of the most important parts is this transition from learning to actually trading, and to minimize any kind of psychological pressure, any kinds of, to eliminate any possibility of psychological breakdown or these kinds of problems. you must, number one, start with the money you don't really care about, which is difficult for most people because even I care about $10,000, you know, but this is what everybody says. But
I guess
if you,
more so you would talk about money that you can afford to lose, kind of. That's probably what you would.
yeah, because a lot of people, what they do, I have so many students, they get caught up in some pump and dump schemes, and they, one of the guys lost $500,000 without knowing anything.
In
And he
crypto or
was,
regular?
it was GME, and he was using leverage, and he used pretty much his retirement was in there. So I mean, he lost everything. And a lot of other people that I know, they learn from him, then they're saying, "Oh, Thomas, so I just finished the learning program. So I just got 5,000 from my father, 3,000 from the bank, 2,000 from what?" I was like, dude,
credit cards and everything. Yeah.
What are you talking about? I mean, even me personally, I've never ever traded with other people's money, because for me it was always such a huge responsibility that I just did not want to have this extra pressure on myself. So most important, number one, is using the money that you're ready to lose and that you can afford to lose. And number two is that a lot of people are skipping one super important stage. There is theory, then there is real money, but in the middle there has to be practice. So a lot of people are saying, well, you know, what's demo trading is so easy, you know, but the money trading is difficult. And there is some truth to this, but when you are doing practice trading super systematically, this becomes a different type of practice. So for example, my students, they have to go through 3 stages of practice trading, of course, with demo money. What does this include? It goes each stage at least 200 to 400 trades, carefully recorded. There are about more than 10 different metrics that you have to record for each single trade that you can later on, you can analyze. You can see what are you performing best at. What is, you know, it helps you to be in tune with the market and adjust to the market and stay flexible.
And know what to pay attention to. You know, I feel like a lot of new traders, they look at the trading screen and just so complicated that they just, you know, outside of the buy and the sell price, it's hard to know what else to kind of pay attention to.
Yeah, that's right. So, and when you are doing so much practical work, that let's say, as I said, 200 to 400 trades per stage, so that's going to be like 600 to 1,200 trades in total through this whole phase of practice. And then you can see that across to like 1,200 trades, you had an average win ratio of 45%. Your average, you know, ratio of take profit to stop loss was 2.75. And then when you see these numbers, it's like, you know, this is not luck. This is experience. This is knowledge. This is what it means being professional.
That's a lot of trades. That's a good how long does that usually take for students?
That depends. That depends, because everybody has different styles. Somebody likes to do more swing trading. So if you're like, you know, if you have 3 trades a week, then of course, I mean, that's going to take you 10 years. So you have to reduce it down to, I don't know, maybe.
Okay. So for the demo purpose, you're trying to just get them used to trading, buying, selling, and not necessarily. Okay. Nice.
Right. So
I really like that. That's really
it depends on your style. So if you're doing, you know, 10 trades a day, then perhaps you need to do like 200 to 400 trades. So if you're doing scalp trading, day trading kind of a thing. So, and usually it takes, I don't know, you know, my learning program, the education itself, depending on how much time you can devote to it per day, would take roughly 5 months to complete. 3 to 6, depending on how fast you're going, and you shouldn't really be going too fast. Then practice is around, I would say 3 months at least, 3 months to 6 months. So the whole
on
process,
the demo account before you start.
on the demo account. Yeah, because there is no reason to lose real money. I mean, what's the point? Because a lot of people, you know, they're saying that, oh, Thomas, well, your education costs money. And I'm saying, well, doesn't your time cost money? And the money that you're about to lose, isn't that worth anything?
Without knowing what to do. Yeah. A lot of people, like you said, go in initially because of like some pump and dump, some hot stock tip that they heard from a friend or an uncle or you know, family, something like that.
So it's just the way that it happens. And when people see that they have to pay for information, it's, you know, oftentimes spikes some kind of negativity. But if you think about it and the way how it prepares you for the market, at the worst case scenario, you will at least not lose anything. And, you know, on average, on average, people lose far more than what my education is costs.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and this is more of most importance because I see so many, and I work with some. I have different packages in my learning programs, which all of which can be found at thomaskralow.com. But there are some of the students I work closely with them. It's just a package called Assisted Plus, is where we have one-on-one sessions with them and stuff. And I can see how in the beginning I can feel this urge to trade with money. And this is what everyone has. This is what I had. So whenever you open the trading station, you started, there is your $5,000 or whatever it is in your account, and you must make 10% today. You must make that $500, and you start calculating, oh shit, if I make 500 today, 20 days in a month, that's like 10 grand. Or whatever, and this is the worst psychology and mindset that there can be. And when you're doing so much of practice, you get so bored of this practice that number one, you cool down, you're ready, and you get experience, so you understand that this job is fucking serious and really difficult, and you cool down so that you don't have this urge to trade every single moment just because you want to buy that iPhone. So
you think randomly it's gonna go nice. I actually really like that principle. Like that's definitely something that I also have our students and our university students kind of go through and do demo and paper trading. But I like your requirement that you guys have. And so I'm gonna talk about your Black Friday sale and link it in the description. But before we get to that, one last topic I want to cover is where does kind of crypto fall into your trading set? Probably people like us. I think we both. I was actually in the last video where I introduced you. I think we both started around the same time, early 2010s, 12, 13 or so. So seeing that lifestyle of trading, what do you think about crypto? What do you tell your students about it, and how do you kind of fit that into your trading portfolio nowadays?
Well, see, it's crypto, in my opinion, is a beautiful thing. It's something that is definitely going to be our future. I cannot really say which coins are going to be there in 10 years, but for me, crypto is something that I would probably say, because I'm into it I've always been an active like futures trader and also stock trader. And then once I was able to afford to put together some long-term portfolios that 15% yearly return was actually interesting for me. So I started doing that. And then let's say in 2017, 18, I was starting to get interested in crypto. I started to study it. I was getting into the topics of what's the difference between, it's a separate asset class, how do you analyze crypto? Because for example, there is no valuation. You cannot really evaluate the cryptocurrency. One share of Tesla is overvalued by X amount, but what about Bitcoin? There is no valuation of this. So there are certain specifics that, there are certain differences in terms of how crypto market moves. And also I started to understand how the cycles work. So for me, right now, I'm not holding any stocks because I find it to be, everything is super overvalued, and the whole scenario, the whole situation with S&P 500, the levels at which S&P 500 is trading is pretty ridiculous. So for me, I'm waiting for, the doomsday to come. And as soon as Fed is going to start increasing the interest rates, we're going to see a big correction. It could even go lower than our first COVID wave, which was, I think, 1800 in S&P 500. So, and that's when I'm going to start buying. So this is going to be, that's the point. But right now, and
that's kind of the Warren Buffett investing you're talking about. That's after that crash or the correction happens. That's when that long-term, entrance is good. Okay.
Yeah. So that's, when I go in quite heavy, and I just keep it there for a few years. And then, even the Russian market, I do like the Russian market very much because of high paying dividend stocks, because some of the stocks paying like 10, 12% in dividends. But there are certain issues with the Russian market as well. Again, every market is different. But when it comes to crypto market, I'm trying to ride the cycles. A lot of the people are saying that, this is not the case anymore. But when I check it and when I see my analysts do their work, I have a few actually guys working for me for another project. And what we see is, there still is a big dominance of, for example, the altcoin season versus Bitcoin season. So when Bitcoin climbs, everything else is, it's climbing, but it's not as hard. So once Bitcoin reaches its certain peak and starts to consolidate or, or, move up slowly or down slowly, then all the altcoins start to rally. So I'm just trying to, ride these cycles. And once this cycle is over, probably in the first quarter of next year, we'll see, I don't know, maybe sooner, maybe later. You can never predict it precisely, because the Fed interest rate, if it's going to be risen sooner, it can affect the market sooner as well. But again, we're not sure how it's going to affect it. And once, I'm going to pull out of the crypto, hopefully by then the stock market is going to start to correct hard. I'm going to be using a simple averaging strategy of getting into my long-term portfolio. So that's pretty much it. But again, this is a different approach. What I started with was different. I had this many screens, a bunch of markets, commodities, never Forex though. I never liked Forex. Commodities, stocks, and futures on the indices, and that's it. So that was my game.
Nice. Awesome. Well, definitely appreciate all this. Let our listeners tell us how they can find you and talk about what's special about Black Friday going on at thomaskralow.com.
Yeah, well, right now I don't really like to do any offers, because I'm trying to build a brand name, and we have different products besides trading education. So I'm trying to.
And what are those, if you don't mind asking? Like, what are the different styles, or who would use them?
Yeah, we have KralowTradeIdeas.com, which we launched recently. We have a bunch of people who are involved in this project, a few really cool analysts who are managing assets for other people. And this is more for long-term investing. So we're managing a few portfolios, like growth portfolio and passive portfolio, and as well as a crypto portfolio. And we're basically just sharing each single move and sharing our detailed analytical, super deep fundamental reports on certain assets. And so it's like a subscription basis thing. It's similar to Seeking Alpha, just a bit deeper and more personal than Seeking Alpha. Nice. And that one, then we have Executive Margin, which is going to be launching soon. And that's more of a production company, because I like to create content. I love YouTube, filming videos, ads and stuff. And I have quite a strong team of people. So we're going to be doing like production of people. Somebody, for example, you would like to create your own or a course or a learning program in my style, then you can come to us and we'll do it for you. So, and yeah, also I'm working on my own hedge fund, finally in Dubai.
Oh, wow.
This is something
awesome.
that
I was actually born there.
Oh, really? That's awesome. So, well, I
fun,
love it here. I mean, I love Dubai and all the opportunities that come along with it. But it's always been my dream to create a hedge fund, and I want to, manage money in a very interesting way. I want to create an opportunity. I still am trying to figure it out from the perspective of legal stuff, because managing even $1 of somebody else's money is a bloody nightmare in terms of,
regulation, licenses, compliance.
Yeah. And the thing is that the hedge funds have always been reserved for the ultra high net worth individuals. Because if you want to go to Goldman Sachs, they're not going to even talk to you unless you bring at least $30 million to the table. So there is a good reason why that is. I mean, they cannot really bring that check so low, just because they will need to have 100,000 people working with all the customers. It's difficult. But what I'm trying to achieve, I'm working with a few specialists. We're trying to find a way, I shouldn't say to create something decentralized, but to make this more available for an average Joe. So it would be a really, not some kind of a Ponzi scheme, but a real investment fund with certain different packages that people will be able to invest in. And starting with, I don't know, $10,000 or $5,000, or as low as we can bring it. But so far, I've been faced with nothing but challenges to actually do it legally and to make it available to people. So yeah, but this is my dream, to create something as big. It will be pretty awesome. And yeah, I mean, I can be found, answering your question on where I can be found on Instagram. And most of the time I do my best to answer all the messages personally. So if anybody wants to reach out and ask me something, always feel free. Also YouTube and Twitter and TikTok, fooling around a little bit there as well when I have some free time.
Yeah, and, that's becoming up and rising.
Yeah, then also Facebook and some other social media networks, but these are the main ones. Yeah.
Perfect. And I'll be linking those down below. So if you guys are listening to the podcast, either in the show notes or in the description below, Thomas, thank you so much for your
Yeah,
time, man.
one last thing that I forgot
Yes,
was the Black
100%.
Friday thing. I started, see, that's,
Yes.
I can start talking forever. So this
All good.
Black Friday thing, I don't really like to be doing any discounts. So we always keep the discounts to like 10, 15, 20% for retargeting and stuff and webinars. But for Black Friday, we're doing 50% off. So it's a
Wow.
huge difference. It's a huge discount, and it's
Yeah.
available at offer.thomaskralow.com. It's limited to about 1,000 seats. Right now, we
Nice.
already sold around 400, so it's gonna probably be there for another few days. But usually these sell really fast, just because some people are waiting for them. So
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Perfect. Okay. So I'll make sure to include that in the email, and I'm talking with your team, I guess, to kind of set that up. But that'll be a special discount for the Penny Stock members too, for that percentage off. So definitely click the link below to get to Thomas's website. But Thomas, thank you so much, man. It's a great time.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Cheers.